Shooting a narrative film, whether it's a short film or a feature film, inherently is going to present a lot of logistical challenges, and most, if not all of these challenges are amplified if you're trying to do it either no budget or extremely low budget. But within these challenges, there's actually a lot of opportunities for you to maximize what you have available, and you can actually sometimes get like 80 to 90% of what a professional produced film would look like on a very low budget if you know some of the tips and tricks for how to do it. So what I want to do in this video is give you some practical tips for how to make the most of your low to no budget film, covering pre-production through production and finally post-production. Although I will preface this by saying I'm assuming you got no money for your actual movie, but I am assuming you will have at least a camera, a lens, a microphone, and a computer capable of editing the movie you're looking to make. So starting in pre-production, the first thing to consider is the story that you want to tell in your film. And a lot of this is probably going to be dictated by what filming locations you have access to for free. But you might have more options than you initially think. And this can be dependent on where you live as well. For instance, here in New York City, we at B&H have access to tons of filming locations, and a lot of them cost a minimum of $100 to $200 an hour, which greatly exceeds our no-budget parameters we're working within. You, however, wherever you live, might have access to a lot of great free locations. Now, this could be anything as simple as your apartment, or your friend's slightly nicer apartment, or even just businesses you have access to. Do you have a friend's uncle who owns a bar? See if you can shoot there for free. Do you have access to a coffee shop you could shoot at? Or even locations where you might be able to shoot for pretty cheap. Like, for instance, at least here in the United States, a lot of times your local municipality will have a film website. So you go to your government website and there's usually some film permit page, and a lot of times you can get access to things like parks or mostly parks, and shoot there very cheap. So what is a good starting point, considering your budget, is to figure out what filming locations you have access to and start from there, because that can actually be the first thing that informs what sort of story you can tell. The second thing to consider in pre-production is your casting, and specifically what actors you have access to. Now, if we're talking no budget, the way you have to frame this to yourself is, who are the most talented actor friends I know who are willing to work for free in exchange for me putting them in a great looking film that will give them great content that they can use for their reels? Because having been on both sides of the camera, I can say that that is the most fair and equitable exchange if you're asking people to work for free. This might also feel like a limitation as well, because you will almost certainly have people who are not available all of the days you want them to be, or you have 3 really dedicated actors and then a whole bunch of other potentially flaky people. And so you might have to write your film around this. However, kind of like the restrictions with the filming locations can breed some creativity, what actors you have access to might also inform the story that you want to tell. So you can start by saying, okay, I have access to a park, a coffee shop, and an apartment, and I have 3 actors I know I can get on board for this. What are some stories that I want to tell that can start to integrate all these things? And what you can start to do is actually use the restrictions and constraints that you have thrust upon you because you don't have any money to maybe tell an interesting story or find an angle that you wouldn't have found otherwise. So lean into this. And actually, kind of on the note of story, like obviously, I don't know what story you want to tell, so I can't really give any practical advice for that. But one thing I can say is if you're looking for ideas, obviously watch movies, also just for inspiration on how you want the movie to look, but consume a wide and varied diet of media. Read a lot of books, play narrative video games, go to live theater. If you have a varied diet of media formats and also genres, it can only trigger new ideas and give your story and your characters more richness and more depth. And on the final note of pre-production, let's talk about screenwriting software. Now, fortunately, we live in an age where free word processors are readily available, but the problem is none of these are inherently going to format your screenplay in a proper screenplay format. Things like Google Docs, Microsoft Word, Apple Pages, they're not going to do this automatically. Now, Final Draft is the industry standard screenwriting software, and it's great, but the problem is it's $250. It's sometimes on sale for like $200, or I wait till Black Friday, but also, this is going to be overkill for your no-budget film. So there are options that do kind of fit in between these two. Scrivener is a great one that I like to use. It is a one-time fee of $60, and it's primarily for novel book writing and organization, but they have an excellent screenwriting template built into it. There's also applications like Highland Pro, which cost $5 a month, I believe. They might have a free trial, but Google is your best resource. There's probably 5 other ones that have come out in the last time I've researched it that will also work great for your film. So once you're actually in production for your film, the first thing I have to say over and over again is do not skimp on your audio, because I'm sure you have heard a variation of this before, but an audience is going to be much more forgiving of bad looking video if the audio sounds good than they are if the inverse is done. If you've got great looking video and the audio sounds like garbage. A decent shotgun mic cost you a couple $100, but honestly, even if you just get one of those little Rode plug-in things on the top of your camera that plugs in through an auxiliary cable, even that is better than nothing. So do not skimp on audio. If you have to spend money on one thing, please get a decent microphone. The second big factor to consider with your film is lighting, because honestly, if you can nail your lighting and make it look good, this will make your no-budget film look like it had 50 times the budget. Which I guess is still 0 if it's no budget, but you know what I mean. Not all light is created equal, and the highest quality source of free light that we all have access to is the sun. So if you can be shooting an outdoor scene, let's say, and you bring a reflector, and even just like a large sheet of cardboard to shape and diffuse your light, you can get really nice looking results out of just that. But let's say you want to light an indoor scene. This can get a little bit trickier, because if you're relying on practical lights, like for instance, if you have a character sitting on a couch and there's a lamp next to them and you want to use just the bulb that's in that lamp, a lot of times that light is not going to be bright enough, first of all, and second off, a lot of times consumer standard light bulbs you can buy at a drugstore are going to flicker on camera. They don't do it in person when you see them, but on camera this is going to show up. Now, option 1 is you can just live with this, which I don't recommend because you want your movie to look good. So option 2 is you can play around with your camera settings, and I'm oversimplifying a lot, but if you just adjust your shutter speed or potentially go into your camera and it might have different flicker settings for 50 hertz or 60 hertz, you can sometimes make this flicker effect disappear. And then the third option is, look, I know we're saying this is a no-budget film, but if you have to spend a little bit of money, once again, your first couple $100 put towards good microphone, but your second couple $100 should probably go towards a good video quality light. Now, you can purchase these from places like, I don't know, bnhphoto.com, for instance, but investing in even just one good key light where you know it's color accurate, where you know it's not going to flicker, where you know it's going to be bright enough and you can even diffuse it, that's going to go a long way towards making your film and your actors look really good on camera. Now, I realize I'm barely scratching the surface of all of the things that go into production of a film, but the one thing that is universal is feed your cast and crew, because you can have a cast and crew that will work for free or for cheap or just for an IMDb credit, but nobody's going to work if you do not feed them. So making sure that you have a plan in place for that, whether that's you making food in advance, guilting your significant other or friends and family towards catering, or just allocating money for your crew to be fed, because they will not work otherwise, and that is a non-negotiable. People will work for free, but they will not work on an empty stomach. I do also briefly want to touch upon post-production though, because once you have all of your footage, you need to edit your film. And if you are truly doing a no-budget film and can't pay an editor, then congratulations on your promotion from director to editor of your film. If you haven't edited before, or you only know the basics, you are living in a golden age of resources. I mean, just on YouTube, just on our YouTube channel alone, in fact, our very own Doug just did a recent tutorial video all about video codecs, which I would highly recommend you watch before you go into production regardless. But there's lots of resources available to learn the basics for different NLE editors. I'm assuming if you're watching this video, you're probably past iMovie and CapCut. A great free option that I would recommend is the free version of DaVinci Resolve, and then if you want, you can pay a one-time fee to upgrade the entire studio version to get access to that. But also, Final Cut Pro is available for Mac users. It's another very fast, easy-to-use software. And then, of course, Premiere Pro is industry standard, and it's available on PC or Mac, so honestly, for your first film, it doesn't really matter which one of these you use. Any one of them can absolutely edit a film. It's just a matter of picking one that works for you and then accessing the free resources available to get the most out of the software. All right, so I've tried to keep the vibes of this video pretty positive because, you know, at the end of the day, it's fun to make a movie. Even if you don't have much of a budget to work with, it's fun to be scrappy and work with your friends and make something creative. But there are some things to consider when making a low or no budget film. And the first topic I have to talk about is, depends which angle you look at it from, but it's either flakiness, we can call it, but the more positive spin is just respecting the time of your cast and crew. Because at the end of the day, if this is a no-budget film and you're not paying your cast and crew, then you have to be respectful of the time they are giving to you. And what this might mean is you might have an actor or actress who has a hard out at 2 in the afternoon, like a perfectly inconvenient time for the whole day shoot that you're trying to do. But if they're giving you their time, you have to respect that and you have to be able to work around their schedule. Now, on the flip side of this, not paying a cast and crew means you might have a higher likelihood of people being a little flaky, maybe oversleeping, maybe just canceling the day before when they were the sound person. You don't have a fallback. I'm not speaking from personal experience. And you have to consider these things as well. So if you are doing a no-budget or low-budget film, I would highly recommend work with people that you know, that you have some sort of relationship with, that are just reliable. But I will also say, if you can afford to pay your cast and crew, what it does do is it instills a little bit more responsibility. I don't even want to say responsibility. It just means that they're going to take it a lot more seriously because you are now treating them as a professional who's getting paid to do a job. And that means you can expect certain things from them that you couldn't if they were just working for free and volunteering their time. So just be aware, if you are working on a no-budget film, make sure you are especially considerate about the people you pick to work with you. But that all being said, shooting films are very stressful, but also incredibly fun and rewarding, and you really build camaraderie with the people that you work with. And I also realized that I barely scratched the surface of this relatively short YouTube video going over all the tips and tricks on a low-budget film production. So what I would love is for any of you out there who have worked on your own micro-budget or zero-budget film, please let us know in the comments challenges that you came across, creative solutions you found to probably common problems that a lot of us have had, because I would love to hear it. And if you are watching this, doing some sort of YouTube research on your own first no-budget film, also let us know any other questions that you have, and I think we will have a lot of people who are willing to help you out, because filmmaking is inherently a collaborative art, and it's really cool to be able to work with like-minded people who also want to make cool stuff. So please let us know in the comments below what your thoughts are, what your hot tips and takes are, and until the next video, I'm Nick with B&H. Stay creative.